We have a very interesting closing session that fits very well with the way this particular program has been structured and will follow some of the cues that come out of the first presentation this morning. We're going to hear about 3 community-based programs that are offered at community centers within the lower mainland of Vancouver. And these were chosen very specifically because they have examples that I think you want to really hear about. And the order that we're going to go in is to begin with Grace Han and Susan Lowe, who are going to talk about the South Vancouver Seniors Network. And in particular, one of the things that I wanted them to talk about was a program that evolved because of COVID, right? And we haven't heard much in the last day and a half about the impact of COVID. And that's one of the questions I'm going to direct to the panel and to our colleagues from Winnipeg, is to talk about a bit about what happened. You know, have we got people, the numbers back, who started out being associated with senior programs at community-based centers? Are those numbers back? How have they come back in terms of what people are looking for in supports? So that's amongst the kinds of things that I think we're going to hear about from these 3 particular programs. So can we have our first one?
Hello, can you hear me okay? First, I want to say what a pleasure it is to be here today with such an amazing group, to be a part of an audience of people who care, people who are making a difference in people's lives every day. And I also want to thank Dr. Gloria Gutman for inviting me today to speak. I think we should give Gloria a real hand for her work as a pioneer in gerontology. You certainly are an inspiration to me, and I really say I appreciate you, Gloria. So again, thank you. Before I really get started on South Vancouver Seniors Network and the webinars, I want to address some of the things that I also do. First of all, I work with an organization that I think we all know about now, Jewish Seniors Alliance. I head up, manage, I work with a team to provide peer support for seniors who are isolated, vulnerable, and going through tough times. It's amazing. We have about 80 volunteers. We have about 140 seniors that we are supporting, and those are seniors that are really, really vulnerable. So that's why it's so special today to talk about what's going on now, how we see this evolving, the impact of COVID. So having said that, I also want to thank my colleague and co-facilitator, Andrea Crombine, who could not be here today. She's been an amazing woman to work with, and the research and keeping people together. So she has her daughter's graduation, so she is unable to be here. But a lot of thanks go out to Andrea. So now for a moment, I want to go back in time. We probably all remember March 2020. Let's think about that for a moment and let it settle in. We turned on our televisions. We would hear COVID from China. Then we would hear one person died in Italy. Then it grew to, in Italy, people actually rented out their pets because the only way you could go outside to get fresh air If you had a dog, you would rent out your dog, and people made a lot of money. So these dogs were exhausted, though, to say the least. Can you imagine what kind of a world we are living in? It was fascinating. And yet, then we hear about lockdowns, Barcelona, lockdowns. Things are happening, but it's way over there, far, far away. Wow, it happened. I get shivers now when I think about the news. The first man in BC that died of COVID, just 80 years old in British Columbia. And guess what? A senior. Guess where he was? In a care facility. Then we started to hear more. We started to hear things like, unable to unite with your families, unable to get to the airport, unable to get back from vacations, unable to be with loved ones who were dying. So let's just take a second and reflect on that, because I'm sure all of us in this wonderful space today felt that. What did that feel like? So that was in March. Things were happening fast. And one day, working from home, how many people knew about Zoom before March of 2020? Let's see. How many people bought stocks and shares in Zoom? How many? People lost that opportunity. Yeah, so Michael Lee, we all know Michael Lee. We knew Michael Lee from his work. He is an MLA. But I want to talk about Michael Lee when he called me and said, Grace, would you come through Zoom, of course, and train my staff? And I thought, that's really peculiar that Michael would ask me to do that. But you know, the compassionate side of Michael came out, the empathy. He was really concerned about the seniors in the community. And if I did the training, then his staff would be able to communicate by phone, of course, and talk to many seniors. So that's how I got involved. And as you know, Michael Lee started the South Vancouver Seniors Network with Andrea Crombine. And fast forward, I got involved as the co-facilitator. And that was the most beautiful thing I ever did in my life, I think, because when we started out, we saw on Zoom, we created a space that was amazing. We created a safe space. We created a space where, believe it or not, we didn't think it was possible to feel empathy on Zoom, to feel the emotions on Zoom. But what we did, we created that space, and it was amazing. It was information. We had guest speakers. Most importantly, I believe, it gave people a voice. People to talk about their fears, a way for people to connect in their community. Because by now, we're all sitting at home. We're not seeing people, so Zoom provided that platform. We grew and grew, and we do it every Thursday morning from 10:30 to 11:30. We've had over 300 guest speakers right now, and Andrea and I said, okay, people are starting to get out. The pandemic is receding. Let's call it quits. It proved too valuable for that, so people said, we want to keep going. And why do you think that was important? It was important because people had a voice. We were able to have conduits. We had speakers, and I'm going to name a few speakers. Some of you are here today. We have Dr. Christine Truer that came and talked about, she did her thesis, I believe, on long-term care and senior isolation. So just opening that up so that we could get a sense of what people are feeling. And we had Dan Levitt. Dan Levitt didn't come to us as the provincial seniors advocate, but he came to us and spoke about aging and ageism. I learned a whole lot, Dan, from you. I think we should give Dan a warm hand here. One of the fascinating things, and I learned a lot from you, Dan, but one day, on one session, he was talking about ageism, and I will never, ever again say, I've lost my glasses, I must be having a senior moment. Ageism is prevalent in our society, and then Dan started to talk about anti-aging creams. And I was fascinated by that, so one day I was going up Robson, so Dan, I learned from you. I was going up Robson with my good friend, and we were feeling really confident and happy, and I thought I looked really cool. Out from this shop, would you believe this, came this woman, a very young woman of about 18 years old. And she said, "Excuse me, but can I give you a sample of my cream because I think it will help you?" I was flabbergasted. And I looked at her and I said, "Wow, that's very special, but I think I look quite beautiful as I am." I would not have, I would not have said that, Dan, without you and hearing this ageism happening. So that's where we were helping our community to take matters in our own hands so that we feel empowered. I became empowered. The participants became empowered. We had Isabel McKenzie come, and I want to say thank you, Isabel, because I think there were times when they asked you some pretty hard questions. And I have such respect for your incredible work that you have done. But giving the audience a voice to say, okay, Isabel, what's happening with SAFER, the shelterly aid for the elderly renter? That's not quite enough. We know that rent in Vancouver has gone from $1,100 to $2,100. So people are, able to use that to get through to people of government, the different levels of government. I believe we've made a huge impact, and South Vancouver Seniors Network is a collaboration with about 30 other partners. South Vancouver Seniors Network, we've all heard of BC CRN talking about elder abuse. And that's a really dirty secret itself, isn't it? We all know about elder abuse. We know how bad it is. But the thing is, nobody is talking about it. So in our group, they are talking about it. They are looking out for their neighbors. They are knowing how to address this topic, which is so awful. Another area that people stop talking about because they think that if you are 65, you no longer have any need for intimacy. So they said to us, should you do something about that? We haven't had anybody talk about intimacy. So we had a woman come, a sex therapist. Wow, that went down really well, so much so that they said, "Can you come back again?" So we had her come back. So that just goes to tell you that at 65, the switch doesn't go off. Okay? So I just want to say that to everybody. When we reach 65, the switch doesn't turn into the off position. We are still very much alive. So that goes with ageism. It goes with elder abuse that we talk about at those webinars. And I believe we've provided that space every Thursday morning so that people can feel empowered. We always talk about that empowerment piece. We see it all the time, and I am so proud to be a part of the process, and I'm so happy to be here today. So I want to now introduce Susan Lowe, because she's been a participant. She works with Simon Fraser, and I just want to say a big welcome and thank you, Susan.
Thanks, Grace. Hi, everyone. Susan Lowe. I work for Dr. Teddy Costco and his Precision Mental Health Lab. Teddy works in the Department of Gerontology and the School of Public Policy upstairs. And I'm really honored to fill in for Andrea Crombine today. She's great. It's too bad she couldn't be here, but I'm happy to fill in for her for sure. I've been attending these SVSN webinars almost since they began. I work in community engagement here, and Andrea and Grace have just done an exemplary, they've really excelled really in organizing and then delivering all of these SVSN webinars, bringing a really large number of diverse older adults and those providing services for them together. The objective of SVSN webinars is to connect seniors with government, community leaders, and experts in real time, created an advocacy platform for seniors, and has meant many older adults have been empowered with information and the courage to speak up. The webinar has been impactful and useful to me in order to, or due to, I guess, the level of wisdom shared in a wide assortment of excellent presentations each week. The ones that Grace has been talking about, just a real wide variety, such as the last one I try to go whenever I can, as do many of the people. The last one I went to was a couple of weeks ago, Death and Dying, and then there was sex therapy, and then, you know, everything in between. The power of the collective and the ability of members to share personal issues in a safe place. Recordings are only available upon request later. So there's a lot of intimacy, a lot of, Andrea does a great job of taking care of the privacy of all of this stuff. And I'm very honored to be sitting in for her today. And lastly, I met project partners for Teddy Costco's research projects, as well as new friends through the SVSM. So before I pass you back to Grace, I'd like to thank Gloria and Andrew and Sarah and any others who've been involved in the organization of this conference. I think it's been they've done such a good job to bring researchers and, you know, community partners and interesting new, what was the word I was going to, I forget what I was going to say there. New friends, new perspective, community partners, etc. Today together. It's been a great couple of days. So thank you very much.
I don't have very much more to say, but I did omit a couple of things just as I reflect what I should have said. I also wanted to thank Dr. Beverly Pittman, who's here. She did an excellent presentation for us on Better at Home project, and that's a great information and how seniors are supported. So I just wanted to say a big thank you. I also wanted to talk about the importance of getting information through to people. For example, now we are heading into our summer. Many of you know 2 years ago we faced 619 deaths, mainly seniors. So now we are preparing and talking about what's happening, what is the government doing with kits, with cooling fans, with air conditioning. Many people don't know how to fill out applications. Many people run up against brick walls because they can't get them installed. So it gives people that voice. So I just wanted to add those things because that's going to be happening pretty soon. We're going to get another heat dome. And we don't want a repeat of having 600 people die again. So that's how I will close. I just want to say what a pleasure to be here. And a big thank you for everybody for all the incredible work you are all doing. Thank you. Much, Gloria, for that. I placed out on every table a bunch of those. So please look at those. We would love to welcome. And if you would like to come and present, get in touch with Andrea Krumbine or myself. So just wanted to, yes, thank you, Gloria, for pointing. Those are on each table. And thank you so much.
Oh, hello. Okay, so my name is Mika Marcellet, and I'm the manager of community services at the West End Seniors Network. Our executive director is Claudine Matlow. She's not here today. She regrets that she would really probably enjoy all the conversations we've been having. I first want to start off by acknowledging that the West End Seniors Network is located on the unceded ancestral territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations, and we are so grateful to operate on these lands. I'm a former SFU student from the PBD program, and I'm really grateful to be speaking here to this room, so thank you so much for having me. And today I'll be talking to you about the West End Seniors Network, which is an exciting topic for me because I'm very proud of all the work that we do there. We operate in 3 locations, so Barclay Manor, Kay's Place and the Denman Place Mall, and Clothes and Collectibles. And our mission is to enhance the quality of life for seniors and support healthy aging in place. So first I'll talk about Barkley Manor and the programs that we have on site there. So we have approximately 750 members, and while it is encouraged to become a member, it's not mandatory to be a member to participate in any of our events or programs. Our programs are for people aged 55 and up, and the majority of our programs are organized and facilitated by senior volunteers. So this includes, we do things like ESL classes, we have fitness like walking groups, and we do Choose to Move, or games. We got Scrabble, Mahjong, like there's always something going on every day of the week. Monthly birthday tea and karaoke. And then reflecting on Suzanne's presentation from yesterday, I would describe our program as kind of the alongside/animator model, like the done for us, by us, because our work, like we work with seniors and volunteers, and they are mainly the ones who coordinate and facilitate all of our programming. And our special events are really amazing. I'm not sure some of you have heard of the Strawberry Festival, so that's kind of our big annual event that we host every June for our members. And we invite all of our members and the community to kind of show appreciation and get together. And then our other large event for the year would be the Holiday Lunch. And last year it was so popular, we ended up booking 2 days to accommodate, just so all the members could be together and celebrate. And I can... This one here. So this is from Nehru's event from 2023. It was so much bigger this year, 2024. We ended up having it in the basement. We have a really large Persian community in the West End, so it's a really popular event, and it was a lot of fun. And then that's me at an event for Black History Month. We were joined by the African Descent Society dance group, and we learned dance, which was a lot of fun. And then, of course, these are dance parties, some examples, which is probably our most popular events that we host. Everybody really loves to come to the dance parties. Like, I mean, there's some people who I don't see at other programs, but they'll always attend our dance parties that we host. And the backyard is perfect for it because we have like a flat space where we'll have live music, and yeah. And then, of course, I want to talk about community services, which thank you so much to the previous presentation, emphasizing how important community services are. And we do the Better at Home program, so for seniors living in the West End. Last year, we served 313 unique seniors across all of our services. And approximately 90% of the seniors that we serve live alone. So social isolation and loneliness are a concern, just like everywhere else. Our most popular service request is light housekeeping, of course, and I'm sure other people have seen similar trends. But unfortunately, the demand is more than, I guess, our funding at this moment. So we do have a long wait list for the program, and we refer new requests to private services. But I mean, for low-income seniors who don't have family support in the area, it's very difficult to explain that there's nothing we can really offer them at this point. We will be starting a social meals program on June 4th. So this program will have offer bi-weekly meals for a cohort of 8 participants for a 3-month period, and it'll be completely subsidized for them. And this will address food insecurity as well as social isolation and loneliness. And then we're also in the middle, we've started a Tech at Home program. So we currently do tech appointments on site at Barkley Manor, and they're very popular. And we've seen a need for people who might be homebound or to help with things like a desktop computer or a TV to send volunteers into their home to assist with things like that. And the program will also serve to kind of educate seniors and even talk about things like scams and fraud. And for some, it will kind of require a regular tech visit for multiple weeks. So it'll also be an extension of our friendly visiting program as well, which is a really good match. And we do have a community connector. So we're doing that. We previously were doing social prescribing, and our community connector was previously a Better at Home coordinator and has moved into the role of CC at West End Seniors Network. So we're in a unique position in the West End because it is a smaller area, but it is very dense, and there are a lot of services available in that area. So it's not always a matter of having services or resources available, and this is kind of why it's important to do outreach and education for people so that they are informed about what services are available to them and how they can navigate or access them. And then other than the light housekeeping program, I mean, our services would not be possible without like volunteers, the dedication and hard work of all of our volunteers. We're so lucky. We have so many amazing volunteers at West End Seniors Network. Most of our volunteers are seniors themselves, and their regular volunteerism provides, purpose, routine after retirement. It's a way to give back and to be connected to the community. My next goal for the community services is to do more training with our volunteers. I would love them all to receive the friendly visiting training, the one that you host, because I just think it's really important to have those skills. And then moving on to Kay's Place. So at Kay's Place, we are a Shine partner, and we have 2 housing navigators that work at Kay's Place. We offer housing appointments Monday to Friday, and we see approximately 300 senior renters for housing appointments a year. And approximately 50% of them are at risk or are already experiencing homelessness. So it takes about 6 months to place someone into permanent housing. And I mean, as you can imagine, we're working with people who are receiving like a 30-day eviction notice. So there is a big gap there, and it's not a gap that shelters are built to fill. And also, shelters are not really the ideal place for a vulnerable senior. So it can be a very traumatizing experience sometimes. So, I mean, if anyone wants to talk to me more about temporary housing, I would be very open to hearing, just putting that out there. And then clothes and collectibles. So at Clothes and Collectibles, we accept donations from the community. So things like clothes, like kitchen things, accessories, and the staff select the items for sale. Many of our, so there are a few staff members there, but it's also really run by volunteers, and they have been there for a very long time, some of them being there for 20 years at this point. So this thrift store generates an income, which provides us with stability and a little more flexibility to assist our community. And growth. Okay. So, I mean, I'm so excited. Dr. Christine Turer is here, who I think is a real trailblazer, and we love the Java programs, and we're actually hosting Java Social. So we host this every Tuesday, which is a program for anyone who's looking for meaningful social engagement and connection. It's an amazing program that addresses social isolation. If you're not familiar, I encourage you to look it up. It was originally designed for long-term care homes, but Java Social specifically is meant for in the community. So the same group meets every week and discuss different topics or different reflections, and it's just a way to share and get to know other people. We are also doing the Oasis program at the New Continental Building in Yaletown. And Oasis is, I'll just read it, it's an older adult-driven model of aging in place located in Norks. So it's built on 3 pillars, which include preventing social isolation, facilitating better nutrition, and promoting physical fitness. I'll talk about partnerships. I mean, Robert did an amazing job of speaking about Men's Shed yesterday, and I just wanted to quickly share that the unique thing about our Men's Shed is that part of its success is because we also have a minor home repair program. So many of our Men's Shed participants are also minor home repair volunteers and the other way around. So if someone signs up to be a minor home repair volunteer, we'll often introduce them to the Men's Shed, which I think is a huge advantage that we have. And then here's a list of our partnerships, which we are so grateful for, all their support and their collaboration. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for listening. That's my brief overview of the West End Seniors, and everyone should come and visit.
Christine, do you want to just stand up for a minute? Because Christine was, for those of you who don't know, Christine was a graduate of our master's program and developed the Java Club based on some of the research that she did while she was a student with us. So we're very proud of Christine.
Hi, folks. So glad to be here. I'm so pleased to be invited by Gloria and Andrew to speak and talk about my passion, 411 Senior Center Society. 1977 is the legal name, but we answer to simply 411 or 411. Some people call us 411. Anyways, my name is Michael Volker, and I am the executive director of 411. So when Gloria asked me to present, she wanted me to present on the history of 411. And unfortunately, when I asked around and kind of went through our archives, there wasn't a lot of written history. So I'm going to take a little bit of literary license here as I go through some of these slides. But anyways, I'm also very proud to be standing here because this is where I graduated from, and I took the arts program here. I have a bachelor's in arts, majoring in communication studies. A lot of the courses were here in these hallowed halls at Harbor Center. And in fact, before, back when there was a Sears in this very spot, if you remember that, there was a cookie store below here where I worked as a summer job. So lots of fond memories of this place. So again, very happy to be here. Anyway, so we'll start the history of 411. So our original home was at 411 Dunsmuir, which is 2 blocks south and 1 block east of here. The building is no longer, but the memories remain. We were located in the heart of Vancouver. It was, I think, a very good location for us because we're not that far from the downtown east side. We're not that far from Granville Street. We were able to attract a lot of participants because of the central location. One of our first programs was the tax clinic. Our reputation grew as being one of the foremost providers of the free tax service for seniors. It was a program that at its peak had us doing almost 2,000 returns in the months of March and April. The program ran, so that's an incredible amount of returns. And just to put that in perspective, this year we did 1,250 returns, and we needed 30 volunteers to pull that off. So when we're running that tax clinic, it's taking over our center. And if you ever want to see 411 at its busiest, come between March and April, and you'll see this tax clinic. It's really amazing. And of course, I don't need to tell you guys how important it is that seniors get their tax returns done and in on time. A lot of the benefits or entitlements are dependent on getting those returns in. So it's an amazingly important service. Very proud of it. Fun fact, I was Googling, researching, the impact of these tax clinics across Canada. And I believe that this year, almost 1 million returns will be done through community-led, volunteer-driven tax clinics. Apparently the number is somewhere around 20 to 25,000 volunteers involved across the country. What a deal the government is getting having our organizations putting on these tax clinics. So another early program for 411 was our information and referral services. It kind of is a natural adjunct to the tax clinic. It's become now our flagship program. We will see about 1,200 participants over the course of the year that come mostly into our center to get INR services. And if you're not familiar with INR services, that's where we will help anybody that's a senior or someone with a disability help get their government entitlements, help fill out their old age security forms, their GIS forms. We'll even help them with getting their TransLink pass. It's an amazing service. Again, this is very much volunteer driven. We have about 6 or 7 volunteers that come in every week and do a 5-hour shift where we will speak person to person with our participants. Some of them are straightforward, some of them are very complicated issues, but we've gotten so good at it that the Service Canada office that is just down the street on Kingsway is recommending people come to us to get their forms. Isn't that interesting? We're used to referring people to them. They're now referring people to us. What a deal. The government gets it again. So yeah, and when I think about information referral services, sorry, I'm so proud of this program. When I worked at the Neighbourhood House, it was information and referral services were something we did for 3 hours a week. And it was really something that was done off the side of our desks. Fair enough. It wasn't our thing. But so when I first started at 411, one of our board members was, I think, a bit concerned, maybe more than one, that I didn't really get INR. And she was probably right. I didn't get INR at first. And then, but then as I started to think about it, and I realized, the beauty of INR services is we're taking money and we're putting it back, getting it back into the people who are entitled to it. And oftentimes this money, if it may be safer, it may be GIS, whatever, that money can make the difference between having a nutritional meal. It can make the difference being able to absorb a rental increase. It can make the difference in being able to visit your family. This service is incredibly important. And we do this with one coordinator that's funded by the United Way. Thank you very much. And our volunteers, again, our volunteers. And when I look at the return on investment, so all we're funding is one person, and we're probably, I think the estimate is that 50% of our participants are getting money back due to our efforts. And I'm thinking about the return on investment, it's got to be in the thousands of percentages. INR is amazing, and I'm happy to say I get it. Okay. So another thing that has come out of INR is advocacy, because one of the beautiful things about INR is we get to hear from our participants directly. We get to see what they're doing. We get kind of a front row seat to the issues that they're facing, a bird's eye view of these issues, and because of that, we can spot trends. Like we knew a year ago that housing precarity was becoming a big issue with the participants in our INR service. So we want to advocate, and as you can see by kind of the vintage photograph here, we've been advocating for many years. I think this looks like something from the late 70s, but your guess is as good as mine. It's my literary license coming through here. I think it's probably in the 70s, late 70s. Anyways, advocacy is very important to us. Our most popular committee is our Seniors Issues Committee. And I'm basing that on participants. Least popular, finance. We'll get to that later. Programming began, so we've been doing programming from day one, and it, of course, it's almost like the lifeblood of a senior center. We have everything from line dancing to mahjong. We've got, of course, ukulele, and out of programming as well as all it is special events. And without programming, special events, we wouldn't have people coming to the center. Like INR will bring people in, maybe 5 or 10 a day, but programming brings in 20, 30, 40, 50 a day. We also have a kitchen. And I was given kind of a cautionary order back when I started that don't let the kitchen be a money pit, because kitchens can be a money pit. So we're only slowly introducing our subsidized meals program. But this month we've introduced, we too have the social meals program. And we're doing what we call MELT, which is Meet, Eat, Learn, Teach. And the idea with that the title that we used on the application was Applied Culinary Skills for Seniors, but it just didn't have a great acronym, so we got rid of that. And so we are launching Melt, which is we're going to run 48 cooking classes. It's essentially cooking classes, but with a nutritional side to it and multicultural side to it. That begins in June. We're just hiring our sort of instructors that get an honorarium. So if you have a skill that you want to teach some of our seniors, there's going to be 20 in the class. We'll provide all the food and all the utensils, etc. Let me know, because we do need instructors. Anyways, so programming involves all the activities, the special events, the food services. It's wonderful. But at the core, and I'm glad Mika talked about services, because at the core, senior centers are really about services. I know the programming, the activities are really important, but what I think separates senior centers from community centers or from programs that are offered at community centers that are seniors leaning is that that's kind of where they stop. We offer that extra bit of services. And we have a long list of services at 411. I don't think it's as long as Wesson, but we have the Emergency Response Preparedness Program. This is an outreach program funded by the United Way in Van City, where we will call our senior members in the summer to check in to make sure they have a buddy system if we get into a heat dome situation. We also have cooling kits. It's a wonderful program. We're proud to say we'll be doing that in the next month or two. We also have our digital literacy program, which we call Bridging the Digital Divide. This was a program that was heavily funded in kind from TELUS. They gave us about 100 tablets, which are wonderful. We made sure that before we gave them to our participants, they took the course. So we had about 4 or 5 classes that we asked them to take before they could get the tablets. We didn't want them sitting on a shelf somewhere, so we wanted them using it. And it's been great. I think next month we'll graduate our 100th participant, but we have to thank TELUS for that. And they also, nicely enough, provided us with a bit of cash to help fund the program and other things. So I do really think it's important that we recognize the services that senior centers provide. It's not just about the activities. The services are really important. And I think one of the things that helps us when we are providing these services is that we remain independent. Like, we need to be able to attract funding from multiple streams. Like, it's wonderful we get a huge chunk of our funding from the United Way, but we also need to be able to attract funding from corporate world, funding from individual donors, funding from other areas of government. And I don't think if you're a community center, you're going to get those kind of funds. Independent senior centers can tap into those funds. And of course, the other big benefit of being independent is that we can advocate. So get back to advocating. We can criticize the government. We can hold them to account for things. We are, independent is a very important part of senior centers. There was a really good report done by a few people on the importance of senior centers, independent senior centers. It came out a couple of years ago. I'll try and get you that name. I'll send it to Glory or someone to distribute. But there was a really good report that emphasizes the importance of independent senior centers. So, of course, a lot of it as well is being part of the community. So you got to have fun. Like, I know this, I've been talking about some serious items here, but 411 has also had a reputation for being a fun place. And this of course, is just an indication of it. This again was back when we were in our location on Dunsmuir. There we are again, never shied or shy away from the spotlight. And that's again us probably doing something along the lines of advocacy. So fast forward to 2010, and our building, which by the way is no longer there, it was getting too expensive for us to maintain. So we had to sell the building, and we began a process to look for a new home. It was a bit controversial. I believe we lost a few board members over the whole issue around selling and where to go, etc. But we eventually found a temporary location at 333 Terminal in Maine. I think Andrew thinks we were still there, but that's good. And so, yeah, and that location, yeah, temporary for 13 years. We were at this location. And all accounts, it was before my time. It served us very well. Then we continued all of our programs at Terminal. That continued, yeah, we lasted 13 years there. But about 4 or 5 years ago, we started in earnest the job of trying to find our new home, our forever home. We had money in the bank. We just didn't have enough money to build a home on our own, a center on our own. So we were very fortunate. The City of Vancouver connected us with the Community Land Trust, and together we worked on building a building, which was no easy task because, of course, it was 2020, I think, when we started, and right in the middle of COVID. So we had cost overruns, we had delays, etc. I feel for my predecessor, Leslie Remond, the ED, that had to go through all this. It's probably no coincidence that once we got it built, she looked for a new job. So I was also fortunate in a way that I kind of got a blank slate to work with, so that was a positive. So in March of last year, we moved into our forever home. It's a great facility. Please come by if you haven't been already. We have about 1,300 square feet of programming space. We have a lounge. We have the commercial kitchen. INR has kind of its own little section. It's a wonderful facility. We have a mezzanine, lots of natural light, high ceilings. It's been understandable that our membership has grown. We are pushing almost 1,000 members, and when we opened the doors, we had about 150 current members. So it's becoming very popular amongst the community. And when we opened, it was a big deal. So we had our soft opening in March of last year, and then we had our grand opening in September. It was great to see a lot of people up from the community coming in and supporting the opening. We had, I think, about 300 people in that day for the grand opening. It was just wonderful. So nice to get the response from the community. So, you know, as I kind of wind up the history, I don't want to forget about our past. So we raised a toast at our grand opening to our past and all the people that have worked so hard to get 411 where it is today. So, as they say, the story will be continued. But for that story to be continued, we have to talk about, you know, the reason that no one wants to be on the finance committee, because it's a sad story. Like you know, we are struggling. I think this year we'll probably run about this fiscal year, about $120,000 deficit. And the only reason we're able to pay for it is we've been smart enough to put together a contingency fund after the sale of our building. But that contingency fund will run out in 5 years. So we need to look at ways that we can fund 411. And program funding is great. Like we will never say no to program funding, but if someone came up to me and they said, "Hey, Mike, we'll give you $500,000, $500,000 in program funding, or we'll write you a $100,000 check for core funding," I'm taking the core funding. And that's simply because it's core funding that keeps the lights on. It's core funding that, we have to do audited financial statements. They cost us about $12,000. We need core funding. And the thing with having the program funded model is that a lot of that funding goes to staff. Like there's controls on that funding that only allow for a certain percentage, 10 to 20%, to go to overhead. But overhead is expensive, and we actually have a prepaid lease on our property. Imagine if we had rents. Like, you would double at least our deficit. So someone has got to start doing the math. Maybe we need to hire an economist to get them to figure out the incredible return on investment that senior centers provide the community. It's a subject that really needs, because we know that we can talk about it now, but we won't see anything for years if our voice doesn't fall on deaf ears. So we really need to be talking about funding. We need to bring that to the top of the table. We need to get all levels of government. You'll notice one thing you don't see here. You don't see anyone from the feds. There's very little federal funding for senior centers. We get the New Horizon, which is maxed out at $25,000. You can barely hire a part-time person for that. So I don't know why they don't understand the value, but one of the things I hope to do, and 411, Wesson, South Granville, and Brockhouse are part of the Seniors Alliance, and we're definitely going to be stepping up our political action. We're talking about that in our next meeting, going to City Hall. There needs to be more funding for senior centers for the story to be continued. Anyways, that's it for me. Thank you.
Well, I really wanted you to hear about these 3 fabulous programs and organizations and networks, because social prescribing depends on knowing what the resources are in your community and what you can prescribe for people to engage in and to do with. So that's really important. The other important thing that I hoped we would accomplish, and I think we did, was to give you the flavor of the super people who are involved in running these organizations. It really takes tremendous enthusiasm and belief in what they're doing, because they begin, as Michael has said very clearly, these groups have to be entrepreneurial, and they have been. The West End has Case Place, which I don't know how many other senior centers across the country actually have a source of financing built in. It's not enough to run the thing, but it's something that contributes. So it isn't only going to government and saying, give me, but it's also a vehicle for involving the people who are involved with the centers, with the volunteers. And I think all 3 of these individuals have stressed the importance of volunteers. So I just again want you to look at those cards. So you see on the back the many community organizations that are part of the South Vancouver Senior Network. The other 2 or speakers, I think, have conveyed the same thing, that they work with a lot of the local groups and bring them in to the center. So I want to ask all 3 of the representatives here to just answer that question about, have people returned to the post-COVID or the pre-COVID levels? Historically, senior centers have had as their membership about 5% of the seniors' population. So I want to know, A, is that still accurate? What percentage of seniors out there actually are using centers and members of centers? And secondly, the question of, has that membership returned to pre-COVID levels? I think, Michael, you were suggesting yours, if anything, has grown beyond.
Sure, yeah. Well, when COVID hit, of course, senior centers were just shut down.
Yeah.
There was nothing going on. So I can see where there's some pent-up energy to come out and get to your local senior center. And I think 411 thankfully opened up quickly after everything else opened up, and therefore we were able to see a surge, I think, in our membership. So, yes.
Yeah, I can tell you that our numbers are higher than pre-COVID for things like the tax clinic and for our programs. The numbers have gone up.
I think for us at the webinar, we are dealing with the very vulnerable populations, many people that can't get out. So I see a difference in what we are doing here and providing a forum for that rather than people coming. So it's hard for us to gauge, especially the fact that they've said, keep on going with those webinars because we need to be able to have a space. So we are providing to vulnerable population more so.
Okay, but Grace or Susan, can you also speak to the other things that the South Vancouver Seniors Network does, like the forums that you have?
Thank you. Yes, Michael Lee heads up the Senior Forum annually, and we just had one about 3 weeks ago, or 2 weeks ago, and that was attended by a larger number. So people that are coming out, we are seeing that increase for sure. And at the same time, giving people the forum with Dan Levitt was at our last annual forum. So speaking about seniors issues and giving the people in the audience at that forum to ask those difficult questions, to continue to be advocates themselves, because we think that's where the power lies, not necessarily in me advocating, but how can we help people advocate for themselves. So we certainly see a lot of that, and there is that increase. People are coming out more for sure, but we aren't as focused on those numbers, just on a specific 1 or 2 times. Thank you.
Thanks, Grace. And I would add, too, it's just a phenomenal place for seniors to meet. I've met new project partners just at Seniors Forum. You don't know anyone, and to come out with new research partners or new friends, a very, very excellent place to meet people. Yeah.
Okay, and I would like to ask our guests from Manitoba, because presumably the idea of having prescribing and the connection with physicians would increase the numbers of people who are going to the centers and the programs in Manitoba. So can you give us some idea of how that's been working?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a better question for Kathy. I don't know if she's still here, but I mean, that's the idea. The question is, how do we get more people to participate? If we can build a mechanism where the healthcare system is seeing the easy way to refer people to these kind of services, then I certainly would expect that the numbers will go up. But in terms of like what the participation is in Manitoba, I mean, that's more of a Kathy, Jim, Connie question, I gotta admit, than me.
I think we had another question back here. Elise?
Hi, I'm Elise. I'm just one of the master's students here at SFU. Just. It's obviously volunteerism is the bedrock of what you do, and I'm wondering, has the face of volunteerism changed since the pandemic, and whether you've had to adapt your services or the way you approach volunteers to actually get your services through?
Hi. Yes, because I also play a role with Jewish Seniors Alliance and our volunteers. We have about 80 volunteers. One of the things that happened during COVID, we were able to attract so much attention for our training. Everything was done by phone and on Zoom. But now that the pandemic is back there, people are traveling. And we are having more difficult times attracting the older adult, and there's nothing like that peer-to-peer seniors supporting seniors. So we're having some challenges now because people are really getting the bug for traveling and making up for that lost time. During the pandemic, people were wanting the training, wanting to volunteer on the phone. Now there's more of a challenge. I'm hoping that that will settle down when the traveling bug is over.
Sure. Yeah, I think for 411, we've actually ironically seen our volunteer numbers increase since opening from the pandemic, which again could be just that pent-up energy of people wanting to get out. A good, probably 90% of our volunteers are seniors, so it is a way for them to get out and socialize. We use a portal to it's volunteersomething.ca, and we get a lot of our volunteers through that, and I really haven't seen much of a decline in interest in volunteering.
Yeah, same. I think that the numbers have grown, and I think it's in part because many of our volunteers are seniors, so same, and it offers, that sense of routine and connection that they can get from the volunteering role. And also I think the pandemic showed a lot of people just how serious social isolation and loneliness is, and if there's a way that they can give back. So we kind of offered that way that they can connect, they can do our check-in calls or friendly visiting program. So it allowed them a way to kind of take action and to help on the crisis that they learned about through the COVID pandemic.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your knowledge. As far as volunteering to cook, I love cooking, and I normally teach a lot of youth. So if you need me,
You're on.
I can volunteer. But I can cook East African food. My question is, what about the participation of men? Because I find in our community center in Burnaby and also in our building, the men tend to go to drink, the women go to play bingo. I don't know if you're getting more elderly men coming in. I know the ratio of dying is different, but living is different also.
Yeah, I mean, typically social programs, we've seen that it is more women who will participate, you're right, but we do have a men's shed, so that group is growing, and it's a very strong group at our organization, and also the Oasis program, which will be hosted in the new Continental building. That building is actually like 80% men. So it's kind of unique in that way, because that's not normally what you see.
Hi, everyone. I unfortunately have a can of worms question. My name's Carrie Randabolio. I'm a recent graduate of the SFU Gerontology Master's Program and have just joined the Alzheimer's Society of BC as Provincial Coordinator, Knowledge Mobilization. But we've been talking a lot about sustainability over the last 2 days. So in thinking about sustainability, how can future generations find capacity to volunteer when many of us are in survival mode in this growing gig and side hustle economy, just to be able to afford rent and groceries? So how do we build capacity for sustainable volunteerism to keep these amazing programs alive?
Thank you. That's a great question. I just ran into a case last week. I, excuse me, went and did an intake with a woman who had some dementia, and the husband is the caretaker. And he said, if I can have a volunteer, just even for 1 hour a week, it will help me so much. I'm at absolute capacity. I can't get out. So when I quietly talked to him about the adult centers where people can go and get that respite, he said, yes, that worked fine, and I thought, this is so exciting. But I took my wife there. I went with her for the first time. The second time, she had some agitation because she was nervous. He got a call from the adult care center saying, we can't handle your wife. She can't come to us. So I believe there's an incredible gap out there for how we are working with people with dementia. They are supposed to go in and sit at a table and just be, but I think there's not enough education and training in that, and I think if there was more of that there would be more capacity. I think it's really too bad that somebody misses that question.
Yeah, I'm going to pass the mic to the back, but in the meantime, I just want to mention that Volunteer Canada has a lot of resources, but you know, these kind of federal resource bases don't always filter down at the provincial municipal level. In Quebec, I know through our SHIRK grant and our partners in Quebec that they actually have somebody at a provincial level who's involved in taking the resources from Volunteer Canada and filtering them down in the Quebec level. You know, it's probably only a stepping stone, but maybe that's something we should be doing in all provinces. Volunteerism is the backbone of all social services and
Yeah,
many other
while
areas.
you're taking that microphone back to Anthony, I did research some time ago with the adult daycare centers, and there are some that are specialized or do have days specifically for people with dementia. So you may just want to refer her to one of those.
This was in that regard. Most people did have dementia, but we also know that many people are sedated. So if you're not on the medications to sedate you, you may not comply with what they have for you at those care centers.
That's great. Thanks, everybody, for the panel. My name's Anthony. I work with the City of Vancouver, but of course I used to work at the West End Seniors Network for many years. First I wanted to say, Michael, thank you so much for mentioning the report that we wrote last year about independent senior centers. That's great. I was involved in that, as was Dr. Wister and Laura Katawaki and Andrea Wadman. What I wanted to highlight, and I'm so glad you touched on the Alliance of Senior Centers that is bringing together the Vancouver-based senior centers right now for conversations and coalescing this sector here locally. And we've talked a little bit about Costco BC as well, trying to do some of that provincially. But I think one of the challenges for senior centers is there is such a diversity of senior serving organizations in the province, right? We're actually working right now on a typology to really understand all of them because there's various different groups. And even within the category of senior centers, there is diversity, right? So the couple you've heard from today on the panel are what you would call the independent senior centers, as Michael and Mika have talked about. But then you have senior centers that are run entirely by municipalities, sometimes with a seniors advisory committee of some kind. And then you have senior centers that are operated in a partnership, between a municipality and perhaps a registered charity or not-for-profit society to make sure there's that seniors' voices driving it. So I guess my question is, what more could be done to raise the profile and the identity of senior centers so there's real clarity about what's happening and the impact that they do, like you've already alluded to, Michael? I'd just like to see what more everyone is thinking about to make sure there's clarity about what they offer and what they do and the impact they have. So,
Well, I guess we need more events like this. Whenever we can get in front of a mic, we've got to grab it. We really have to do our own homework on this. I know that at 411, we're addressing our communication plan, and I think part of that is going to be how we can take advantage of social media to spread the words. Other than that, I'll ask one of my other colleagues if they have an answer to that.
No, I mean, I agree. This is our challenge. Even within the community, we'll meet people who don't know exactly what we do or what we can offer. So the outreach is a huge part of it, and then I guess an organized communication strategy.
Yeah, maybe this is the last question for today. My name is Lynn. I'm a seniors community connector in Surrey. My clients coming from very diverse cultural and social backgrounds. Our social prescribing team consists of 3 members, me speaking Mandarin. We have a Punjabi speaker and also a Russian speaker. But one of the common concern we have when we got referral from the health authorities, like clients were saying, when we make the referral to like organization like your community partners, to ask them to join like social group, they're just saying they don't feel, they don't have strong sense of belonging there. They don't have the motivation to go in there. I was wondering if there are similar challenges for your organization and what have been done for you to encourage more seniors from multicultural background to be part of the community programs.
I mean, I think what you're doing right now is great, that you have people who can speak their native language, and then also going a step further to accompany them to those programs and being the link even for the first few times that they attend. That is kind of our strategy, because we, like I mentioned, we have a large Persian community in the West End, and our community connector speaks Farsi, so that's a huge advantage and a huge help for us.
Yeah, and for us, I think one of the reasons we've been able to attract a lot of participants from multiple cultures is that we are so centrally located. Like our new location at 19th and Fraser is like equal distance from southeast, from the Stanley Park to the southeast corner to the southwest corner and to Hastings Sunrise. We're very central, so a lot of people can get to us, and we're in the middle of a very multicultural area.
And another thing that's been coming up lately with a few people who are here is how can we get corporations involved? Corporations who deal with older adults, as far as marketing the ideas, contributing money, funding, something that was coming up yesterday with a few of us, you.
I would just also like to address it, but this time on behalf of Jewish Seniors Alliance. We've done an amazing appeal to increase multiculturalism, to find people with different languages, and to get people trained. So we work closely with people like Success and Immigrant Services. So the more languages we can get with our volunteers, the more we can serve people as you are talking about.
On behalf of everyone, we want to thank you for a terrific presentation.